Good evening, Facebook. I am live here with Representative Brad Klippert, also my friend.
Amen, sister.
And Brad has been a state representative since 2008. Is that correct?
Correct. Elected in November 2008.
Excellent. So he's been representing Washington well since 2008, and Brad is currently running for Congress in District 4 in Eastern Washington, and Conservative Ladies is proud to endorse Brad's run for Congress. And I asked Brad if he would join me tonight to chat with you all about critical race theory. This is one of our most pressing issues in our country and our state at this time. And all of us as voters and parents are very concerned about it and want to stand up against it and make sure that we are not indoctrinating our children with division and hatred. This week, the NEA, the National Educators Association, which is the largest teachers union in the country, had their annual conference, and they passed a measure to where they will commit to the union president making public statements supporting CRT. They will support campaigns and organizations that implement CRT, and they will research organizations and people who are against critical race theory and the anti-racist agenda. So that means probably, well, at least you and me, Brad, and probably most of the people that are watching. So this is a big deal. We've seen it in our schools all year. And many of the schools have denied that they're teaching critical race theory. They can call it whatever they want to, but it is still critical race theory and indoctrinating of our children. And so here we actually have the biggest teachers union in the nation coming out and endorsing and promoting openly critical race theory. And so this is a big deal. And so I wanted to bring Brad on tonight to chat about it, to share what's been going on in Washington and where we're going with all of this. So Brad, what are your thoughts on what's come out this week?
Well, certainly it sounds like they're going to be researching me. I do not support critical race theory at all. Am I anti-racism? Absolutely, positively, I'm anti-racism. I totally and completely support all the hard work that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King did. What was he for? He was for equal opportunity for every single American. He is the man who is quoted for saying, "I wish that my 4 little children could grow up in a country where they'll no longer be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." I totally support that. He wanted every single American, despite the color of their skin, to have an equal opportunity in Washington State, the United States, and the world for that matter. And I support that equal opportunity for each and every person, despite the color of your skin. That should not matter, and it doesn't matter to me. However, critical race theory is one of the most divisive tools in the United States of America today. And my understanding is that our current president, Joe Biden, when he did his inauguration speech, said he wanted to be a president that would unite this nation. Critical race theory does just the opposite. It's the most divisive tool in America today. And why would we want to go back to judging people by the color of their skin? Why wouldn't we want people to be treated equally? And now we're wanting to use this model of equity where every single person in the United States of America is judged again by the color of their skin. I don't accept that, and I will work against it because I want to see this nation united. One nation under God is my goal.
Yeah, and not even just the, it's creating the division, but it's also creating hatred for children of themselves and their families. I think I showed you what happened to my daughter in her 8th grade science class, where she was presented with this power and privilege wheel, which is where you are supposed to circle all of your identities. And, if you're white, and if you have married parents, all of the things that are beyond our control, especially as children, they are taught that they're an oppressor. If they come from certain backgrounds, things that are totally out of their control. And on the flip side of that, you have children who, maybe are a different race, and then they're taught that they're a victim. So we've got teachers and educators, which I kind of think they're more like activists than educators, who are teaching our children to be ashamed of who they are or be victims. So we're raising a bunch of victims and guilty white children, which I don't like. What does that look like for our society in the future?
And Julie, what we send our children to school for is we want our teachers, our educators, to teach our kids reading, writing, arithmetic, science, technology, math, engineering. We'd also like them to be able to learn skills that they could grow out, get out of college or high school and have a career, a job, carpentry, an electrician, a plumber, a nurse, a policeman, a firefighter. That's why we send our kids to school. And as you said early, we don't send our kids to school to be indoctrinated. And I've been a school resource officer for over 20 years. The number one thing that kids and people in this world want is hope. They want hope. Mm-hmm. And what critical race theory puts on the shoulders of children is exactly what you said, is guilt. And I'm one of two people, judged by the color of my skin. If my skin is a certain color, I'm an oppressor. So now I have to carry that guilt, that weight, that burden. That's ridiculous. And if my skin color is another color, then I'm being oppressed. And I don't have the opportunity as everybody else. That is absolute, positive garbage.
Yeah.
And I have talked to kids with multiple skin colors, and I've said, I will help you achieve your goals. You name the goal to me, the job, the career, the house, the car, whatever. I will help you get an education to make your dreams come true. And that is reality in the United States of America. Why would we want to teach something that takes that reality out of the hearts and the minds of our children? We want to encourage them. We want to give them hope. And in fact, I've had one young man who was suicidal. He was trying to commit suicide by hitting himself on the head with a rock.
Oh my gosh.
And had lost all hope. Do you know what totally changed that young man's demeanor? What totally changed his demeanor is I told him this. I said, do you know that there is a God who created you and loves you and has a plan and a hope for your future, a plan and a hope for success and greatness in your life? And his demeanor totally changed because no one had shared that hope with him, that reality for a long, long time. That's, if we want to indoctrinate our children with anything, indoctrinate them with hope for a great future, not a burden that you're either oppressed or an oppressor. No, that is absolutely horrible. And I stand against it and I oppose it and I'll fight it.
Yeah. And you have been fighting it right here in Washington, which is one of the things that for conservative ladies of Washington, one of the reasons that we endorsed you is because you have an excellent track record on your voting record here in Washington, and you are a fighter. You have, for everyone that's watching, when my daughter went through her situation where the state essentially Paul G. Allen Hope Center had her held hostage, and it took us 8 Seattle police officers to get her out, and we ended up having to get her out of the state. And Brad picked up the phone. I didn't know Brad at all, and he called me and he said, "How can I help?" And for me, that was, that's why you guys are there, right? To help the citizens. And the fact that you picked up the phone and said, "How can I help you?" And so then I started looking into you, and you're doing that. I mean, that's what you do in the Washington State Legislature. So I'd love for you to talk about some of the things that went down as far as critical race theory goes this last session, because there was a lot all across the board. But in particular to the critical race theory aspect, because a lot of people, and I used to be the same way, they don't know about it until after it's been passed into law. They don't know that it's going through the House procedures. So can you talk about Senate Bill 5044 is the one that was passed that required CRT to be taught for public school teachers for their training. I don't believe that goes to the students, but why are we training the teachers on it if it's not being passed down for the students? So maybe you can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I voted against that bill, and there was another bill out there that said that it has to be taught to our medical students in our medical universities, and I voted against that bill also. What do I want my students who are in medical school to concentrate on? I want them to concentrate on how to make me well when I go to them when I'm sick and need of medical care. And what do I want my teachers to be trained on? I want my teachers to be trained on how to educate my child in the subject we already talked about, and I want them to be taught about how to keep my kids safe, because right now there's things out there. And so why, it's just, to me, it's a waste of time to require these people to be taught these subjects, because that's not why we send our teachers to school. That's not why we pay them wages, and that's not why we are willing to create medical universities for our kids to go to treat our medical needs, to teach them critical race theory. No, I oppose it then, I oppose it now, and I'm asking each and every person who's listening to the sound of our voices tonight to stand up and oppose it too, because that's what's going to cause change, is when the citizens of Washington State stand up and say, this needs to be a country united, not a country divided. And critical race theory, their whole goal is to get us to hate each other. And don't let it happen, United States citizens. Don't let it happen, land of the free and home of the brave. Stand up and fight back and say, I will not allow this to progress in the United States of America. I will stand up and fight against it, because one more time I say it, we need to be a country united, not a country divided.
That's right. What do you, for those of us that want to do something, what are the action steps that we can take to do something?
The most powerful thing that you can do is, if you would have told me 20 years ago that I was going to run for office and be elected and serve in the Washington State House of Representatives, I would have belly laughed. There's just no way that was even in my brain concept, my cortex, that I would do that. I felt called of God to do that. I ran, and God worked out the rest. I was elected and have served now for the second half now of my 7th term. So run for office, because if you want change, then you need to be willing to be a part of that change. You know, run for school board, run for city council, run for county council, whatever it is, run for office. Number 2, if you're not going to do that, then speak out, write letters to the editor, get on talk radio, be live on and converse with people like Julie and share your opinions, because it's my strong belief that the majority of Washington State citizens and the citizens of the United States do not support critical race theory. It's just the loudest voices support critical race theory. Well, guess what? Our voices need to become louder, and we need to speak out, and we need to say, no, not in Washington State, not in the United States. We're not going to put up with it anymore. We're standing up and opposing it, because we need to be a country united, not a country divided.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people like myself are starting to wake up. You know, I think President Trump did a really good job of exposing the state of our country, and that it was time for all of us who had just been, you know, living our lives and going to church and raising our families, that we got to get in the game if we're going to save this country. And so I think it's been really exciting to see people going to the school board meetings and standing up to the school boards and writing emails to the schools. And there are several ladies in our Conservative Ladies of Washington group who are currently running for school board. So that's really exciting to see that momentum of, you know, just moms or grandmas, and, you know, maybe they don't even have kids, but they know that they've got to step in and do something, or nothing's going to change. And one of the things I tell people is, we've got to get our kids out of public schools, but we have to stay in the fight. We can't pull our kids out and then, let everybody else deal with it, because then nothing happens. We've got to get our kids out of the line of fire, but we've got to stay in there and continue going to those school board meetings, and getting on the school board and writing the emails and all those things, like you said. So it's been really cool to see people standing up for their kids. What do you see what do you see the path going forward with this?
The path going forward is, you already just touched on it, and I think I did too. I had lunch today with a leader of a public utilities district, and he was telling me about other leaders in public utilities are tired of going to Olympia because they're getting tired of being beat up all the time by people who have opposing views. And I told that person, get in the fight, stay in the fight, and don't let them wear you down. The Lars Larson show, that's passes out coins, and that's what his coins say. Don't let, and I'm quoting, don't let the bastards wear you down. So I'd say to each and every person here, don't let them wear you down. Don't give up the fight. Remember, George Washington, our first president of the United States, when he was the commander-in-chief of the forces that won the Revolutionary War, George Washington actually lost more battles than he won. He could have given up at any time, but he stayed in the fight. He kept fighting with patriots who won our independence in this nation over the strongest military force in the world at that time, because we stayed in the fight and we didn't give up. And don't forget what the leader of Britain said in World War II, never, never, never give up. And guess what? We won that war too. So stay in the fight, keep fighting, don't give up, because you know you're right. You know you're on the side of right. Pursue truth.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know you've got experience in the public schools as a resource officer. How do we as parents, if our kids are going to stay in the public schools, how can we arm them against this teaching?
Parents or students, or both?
Parents arming their students. Like I talk to my students often about, these are the things to watch for, but they're also, and I say I indoctrinate my children. I don't think of indoctrination as a bad word. It's just a fancy word for teaching, right? And so indoctrinating can be negative or positive. And I indoctrinate my children my way with my beliefs. And so they know what to look for, and they know what we don't agree with, and they know what's wrong.
And that's the same thing that I did in my home too. And there's a little motto that you and I discussed before we went live here tonight: pursue truth, overcome fear, and recover America. Pursue truth, overcome fear, and let's together recover America. And so teach your kids truth. What is truth? I told my kids, look, if you're taught something in school, and my kids graduated from public school, if you're taught something in school that is not true on the test, put down the book answer. The answer that you learned in school, and say the book answer is this. However, I believe this. And so that way you cannot be graded wrong, because you gave the book answer, what you were taught in class, but also you can stand up for your beliefs, stand up for what you believe in. And so that's one thing we can do. So parents, teach your kids what is true, and then also teach your kids to be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid to stand up and be, even if you're the only one. Julie, even if I'm the only one who believes the way I believe, it's been more than one time in the legislature. There's 98 people in the Washington State House of Representatives. More than one time, the vote count on that board has been 97 and 1. Brad Klippert, the single dissenting vote. I'm willing to do that, and I would encourage your children, even if you're the only person in that classroom who's willing to stand up and say, I disagree, because you know what the truth is, be willing to do that. And I used to do that even on construction sites. And I remember one construction site, I left to go back to college. And on the way out of that construction site on my last day, a guy came running up after me, said, Brad. And I said, yes, sir. He said, I just want you to know that I didn't always say it, but I always agreed with what you said. And I just want to tell you, thank you for your position of truth and strength, because I appreciate that you were able to stand up against everyone else and stand for the truth. So even if some people aren't doing that, know that there are people behind you who appreciate it when you stand up for the truth.
And it's like you said, when one person stands up, it empowers other people to
Yes, it
stand
does.
up. And one thing that's been interesting to note, you know, I went on the Jason Rantz show about what happened in my daughter's 8th grade science class with the CRT, and then I did a spot on Fox News about something that happened at one of the high schools. I got so many emails from teachers in our school district that I don't even know, that just sought me out and said, I saw you or I heard you, and I just wanted to say thank you for standing up, because these teachers are being bullied. And so I would say, you know, if you're a teacher in the education system, you know, we need you to stand up.
You to stand up.
We need.
And remember, teachers are there to teach kids. And if a child stands up and fights for truth, it's a lot harder for a teacher to fight against a child. And if a teacher ever embarrasses you or talks down to you in a classroom for your opinion, stand even stronger. I remember one guy, when I used to play football, I played football, high school, college, and after college, and had a guy, a linebacker, come up to me one time because I missed a crack back block. And he told me that if I ever miss calling out a crack back block, well, he's going to kick my, and I won't repeat the word that he used. He was much taller, much bigger than me. I didn't step back out of fear. I took 2 steps forward towards that man, and I said, well, that's going to be one butt kicking contest because I'm not going to stand here and take it. So kids, if your teachers ever come against you and embarrass you in your classrooms because of your opinion, I encourage you, don't take 2 steps back and cower in defeat. Take two steps forward and tell that teacher, don't you ever talk to me like that again in this classroom. I have a right under the U.S. Constitution to have my opinion and to speak my opinion, and don't you ever talk to me like that again. Do you understand, sir or ma'am? Because they do not have a right to ever embarrass you, because you have a right to have your own opinion in that classroom. Stand up, be strong, be counted.
That's right. I love that. I love that. We need to show all the kids that clip of what you just said, because that's so powerful. And we need to empower our kids that they can stand up for truth and that they can have their own opinion. And that's what the left is trying to do, right? Is they don't want free thinkers. They don't want children to have their own opinions. It's really that's what all of this is about, right?
Exactly correct. First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution gives you, under the Constitution of the United States, freedom of speech. Do not be afraid to use that freedom of speech.
Before we go, I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about why you decided to run for Congress.
You know, President Trump was our president. He did so many great things as our president. Unemployment, especially under people of color, was at decade low numbers. Mm-hmm. People of color, we were talking about critical race theory, were becoming employed. They were growing and prospering at record rates. So he did that for this country.
Yeah.
We were the world's energy leader under his presidency. And now under Joe Biden, the first day he signed a document that put 11,000 people out of work. And now our gas prices have gone up in my area of the country by over $1.20 a gallon in just 6 months under his presidency. Inflation is through the roof. Public safety is in the toilet. Our borders are like a sieve, and illegal criminals are crossing our borders into our nation. And the gentleman who is the incumbent in my congressional district voted to impeach President Trump. And that vote to me said, I don't support what President Trump did. I rather support what is happening in this nation today under Joe Biden. And I cannot stand back and do nothing about that impeachment vote. So that is why I'm running for the 4th congressional seat in Washington State, because I am running for Congress to support all those great things that Donald Trump accomplished in the United States of America while he was our president, and want to see us come back to that growth and prosperity that we knew under his presidency.
Yeah, that's great. And we need you in Congress. And I know from everything I've seen of you, I know that you will not back down. You will stand up for what you believe in. You will stand up for your constituents, and you will support an America First agenda. And that's what we need. And we don't have room for anyone that won't.
For God and country.
That's right, for God and country. So thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you for serving now. And you've been serving America for a long time. You're a veteran. You're a Benton County Sheriff's Deputy. Did I get the county right? Benton County?
Correct.
Yes. And you've been there for 20 years.
20 plus, yes, ma'am.
Yes. And you were, tell me about your Army. Were you Army?
Right. Served in the for 28 years, 10 months, 3 days, actively either in the Guard, the reserves, or on active duty service. Flew helicopters for the Army for over 20 years, flew the Vice President, 2 Haitian presidents, and multiple deployments, volunteered for more, even more than when I went on. And so it's been an honor to serve. I still serve as a Colonel Klippert, commander of the Washington State Guard. And so I love this country. Public service is in my heart, and serving this country, this state, and this nation, I will continue to do that until I breathe my last dying breath on this earth. So yeah.
Well, we are grateful for you. I am glad to know you. I'm glad to be connected with you. I'm glad to support you. And if anyone would like to donate to Brad's campaign, we need all hands on deck. So even if you don't live in the 4th District, we would love for you to contribute. Any amount is helpful. You can go to klippertforcongress.net to make a donation. We'd also love it if you would go over and like his Facebook page, which is Klippert for Congress, and give him some support over there. This is totally a grassroots campaign. And Brad has, he's proven himself here in Washington. And I think you're a great choice to go to DC and represent us. And I know you represent the 4th District, but you will also represent the entire state of Washington. So I encourage you all to go make a donation to Brad's campaign, klippertforcongress.net. And Brad, we'll have you back. We'll do this again.
It would be an honor. It was an honor to be here today, and it'd be an honor to come back anytime.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night. And thanks everybody for joining us.
God bless you. God bless your families. God bless America.
Amen. Good night.
Good night.